The Search Podcast USA Edition series is sponsored by Ascen. Ascen is a top employer of record in North America that exclusively helps staffing and recruitment agencies hire contractors compliantly throughout the US and Canada. Ascen's all-in-one white-label platform handles onboarding, timesheets, payroll, benefits, insurance, invoicing, and optional financing so you can grow quickly in the US and Canada. Start growing your staffing agency in the US today with Ascen. Visit us at ascen.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Search Podcast. I'm Elliott Manning, the Managing Director of Payment Recruitment Group. So we are still in the midst of our US episodes into this season. We have been doing them non-stop, had some phenomenal guests join us, podcast Ascen, new sponsors. Got a fantastic guest with me this week. I'm very excited to have a chat with him, but I'll let him take away an introduction, who he is, and we'll get right into it.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me on, Elliot. This is great. We've been following the Search podcast now for a little bit of while, so it's nice to actually be joining you on this. So yeah, I'm Tom Alcock. I'm the founder of Code Red, a cybersecurity search practice based in North America, primarily clients out of the Bay Area. But yeah, excited to jump into it today.
Good, mate. Good. Well, look, I know who you guys are. I know what you guys specialize in. But for those that are listening in and want to know more, can you tell us a little bit about the business, what you guys, how you operate, where you are, and give us all the good stuff?
Yeah, and it's been fun knowing you over the kind of last couple of years as well. I know that we've done some business together, helped me on this journey, which has been great so far. But yeah, so we started actually out of the UK. I think we'll probably touch on that shortly. But first year was in the UK and then relocated 2018, 2019. And we saw a huge opportunity out in the States and primarily within cybersecurity. So the last 7 years, actually in March of 2025, we will be celebrating 7 years, which is pretty cool. And it's been a ride in the best possible way. But yeah, what we do is we help two different tracks of customers primarily. One, which is large enterprises. Think of companies like that we might be using to communicate on this right now, right through to post-IPO companies, pre and post, where we're doing 15, 20 placements a year, primarily on the IC and then the CISO track, which is more the executive leadership side of the house. Where I've spent a lot of my time recently is pre-seed security product companies coming out stealth, building that early founding team. So think CEO, CTO, COO, and then building the different pillars of engineering and cybersecurity. And that's really fun because you get to see these scrappy founders that are so smart, have a great idea, and sometimes don't know how to take it off the ground. And that kind of has turned into more of a passion project as much as a recruitment profit center for Code Red.
Are you guys perm contractor focused or?
Yeah, so I would say that probably 95% of our business currently is perm based. And our fees are pretty good out here. So there's always a risk of running a perm practice that you lose a recruiter and kind of they've lost the desk with them. Whereas contractors, that book usually maintains. But we have ramped up to probably 75% at times a perm and 25% contract. But we're a nice steady book of business in terms of contract with a couple of our premium clients that usually working through regulatory projects that have a need. But yeah, and then 2022 to 2024, we were doing RPO with some big names actually. One of them will IPO this year, which is great. And that is putting dedicated recruiters that have cybersecurity experience on site with our own customers for say 3, 6, or 12 months.
I feel like that's quite a big model in the US. And I never saw it a lot in the UK. So forgive me if those are doing it in the UK have got more experience. But as I started doing the US market, a couple of my clients started to get really involved with a lot of these tech companies, helping them with an RPO kind of model by placing recruiters to work with them on a supply basis, which was generating some phenomenal monthly income. Is that the case? Is that a US thing, or am I right?
I think so. Like looking back to my old desk in the UK, when I ran a team in bank analytics, it was the big corporate RPO providers that just dominated, and we would do business via those RPOs. Whereas out here, I think it's a really nice value adds, especially when there's these kind of huge spikes in hiring and then they kind of slowed down. I was on the phone to a founder of an AI company yesterday that needs probably five security and privacy needs, and we ran through the pricing model, and that seemed a lot of money to bulk hire. And for me, putting an RPO person on site, I get the recurring revenue, which is great. I also build a brand internally, and for them, there's a cost saving. But they can also ramp up and ramp down. So on a 28-day notice period, we could run at it for say 3-6 months, fill requirements, pause us for 3 months whilst those new hires in bed, and then come back on. So it's actually a bit of a win-win for both of us. But some people are like think it's too much of a risky model, whereas actually, kind of if you're working with the right agency, it can be really fortuitous.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that what you guys are doing, and you're offering obviously clearly multiple services and different products and solutions. Is that the way forward in the US market? And I know I keep saying US market because that's what this is all about, but ultimately, I know it's a big thing in recruitment. Do you feel like that's where you get more the clients are more receptive of you working with you guys as an agency where you've got a solution offering and you're not just trying to be a transactional recruiter trying to get a job?
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I think that there's always skepticism by new business when you're onboarding. These guys, 92% of the business that we did in 2024 came from recommendations from referrals, a code red, which is a really killer stat. I'm very proud of. But there's always that little bit of skepticism. Like, I know Joe Blogs is really like these people had a good experience, but will it work for me? And to give us a PO for 6 months of one or two dedicated recruiters, that's a risk.
Yeah.
So I think a good way is coming in, maybe working on a couple of hard to fill, senior or very niche or nuanced requirements is kind of how I usually get into some of these companies. And then the typical land and expand model. Okay,
Yeah.
this team are very legit. Let's give them opportunities on X, Y, and Z. And that's when the kind of the RPO model comes into play. And then contract is always there for short-term sprints. And the space of cyber, especially with certain needs like CMMC and FedRAMP and SOC 2, some of these compliance standards, they don't need somebody full time. If they're a Series A startup, they can have a 6 month kind of runway of a contractor. So that's kind of where we plug and play all those services. And for me as a business owner, it's just risk mitigation. If contract falls off, then I've got perm and RPO. If RPO falls off, it's perm, and vice versa. So it's just, for me, it's kind of trying to make sure that I'm not putting all my eggs in just the perm basket. The market dips, and I'm in trouble.
Absolutely. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because I followed your business for so long, and you know, I've been quite persistent in trying to get into working with you guys over the years.
You said that, not me.
Yeah, well, look, that's part of it. If I wasn't persistent, I'd be quite, I suppose, bad at being in a recruitment job.
I love it.
You know, I think, look, you guys have had a lot of success, and every time I talk to you, there's always a huge positive buzz around kind of how much business that you've got and what's going on, and you attract some phenomenal talent. Is there a sort of like method behind how you operate your business that creates that success and getting the attracting these kind of caliber candidates to your business who a lot of other firms just wouldn't be able to pull off, in my opinion, not because they're bad or poor at what they do, but ultimately, there's got to be something there.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that first and foremost. And I think other than using Solid Rector X, the story for us is trying to practice what we preach. And I'm a big believer that kind of how you do anything is how you do everything. And so if you kind of mirror your experience with our customers on the experience that our team members have internally. So I think that looking internally to then how we attract people coming in, we have good salary model. We have actually a great salary model that's kind of changed in the last couple of years. Our commission structure is, I have friends out the UK. I literally had this conversation last week. A friend was like, hey, we're looking to pay 10 to 15, we're about to break into the US market, as is everyone in the UK. We're about to pay 10 to 15% on perm billings. Is that good? And the answer is no. And so you have to be competitive there. Things like best in class healthcare, uh, huge incentives, 401ks, just making it a safe place to work. So people are just obsessed with doing great business. We also have like a dedicated training team. So I have a sales trainer, Lucy, who is dedicated minimum of 4 hours a month. So an hour a week doing coaching, leveling people up that are exceptional, make them better, but also like any people that are struggling in areas, helps them on. And then just being authentic with my team and being real, having those honest conversations at time. I came from S3, that, as you know, is just such a great training school to start your career at. But you can grow out of that a little bit, because when you're just pushing KPIs every single day, every single week, every single month, you lose some of the authentic approach that allows me to have success in the community. And so I do push KPIs, and they're really, really important. But it's also about being an adult and knowing that 100 calls in a week is not smart, right? I'd much prefer 15 that are authentic and you can build from and kind of grow and ask for referrals. So that's what we do internally. And how do we turn that externally? Well, people talk. Like the security market's small, the recruitment market's small, and people see what we do in terms of building communities. They know the logos we work with because we're not particularly shy. I believe if you're giving a great service to a customer, you shouldn't be shy about that, because if they're not going to go to another agency if you're kind of matching their needs with skill. So people know the type of caliber of companies we work with, and we're very active in the community and event scene where other recruiters go, how have they got a booth next to Google, Wiz, Anthropic? And it starts with intrigue, and then they go through the interview process, and then they see that we're hopefully the real deal.
Yeah, no, it's pulled off clearly based on what I've said at the beginning of the question. It's it's clear to see, and I think it's really good value to a lot of people that are listening in on this and wondering, what it takes to kind of be successful. I mean, it does take a long time, and it hasn't happened obviously for you or anybody overnight. And it's a lot of hard work and graft, but ultimately, it's definitely doable, and the proof's in the pudding with what you guys have done. How are you seeing the start to the year? How do you see the rest of the year kind of planning out for you guys? I know it's very early to tell, and if you look at it for this quarter, next quarter, are you seeing some really good things happening?
Yes, is the overall answer. I think that last year, certainly H1 was pretty challenging. I think that we were definitely lower than what we'd want to see as a recurring quarter, and then half year. Q3 was good, but still not where we would expect to be. And then Q4 was our best ever quarter, sorry, as a business in our history. So that's a great indication. And then moving through to Q1, we've onboarded the most amount of retained business, which for us, we're usually high level, exclusive, contingent basis for a lot of our clients. But I just foresee that this year, especially the hiring that didn't get done in 2024, is pushing out. So saying no a little bit more has become a bit of a superpower, or at least come back to us when you can do this. So we've onboarded, I don't know, gosh, it's got to be 6 or 7 really nice retainers of exec search and even ICs in the last 8 weeks. And then a couple of enterprise customers where we've done 15, 20 placements in a year have come back on in the last couple of weeks. So optimism is high. We're building for the year ahead. I think the change of administration out here has in one camp, kind of people are very bullish about some of the industries that we support, i.e. AI, crypto, and then some of the fintech industries. So that's exciting. And then military or defense technology is also kind of on the boom for us too. And so I think we've got a great start to the year. Now, as we know in recruiting, it'd be very naive for me to double our headcount in Q1 and then on the expectation that kind of that all these clients will turn into a couple of $1 million a piece. However, we also there's a balance of underserving customers because we don't have the headcount. So I'm in a bit of a kind of quandary right now to what do I do? Do I say no more, or do I continue to hire experienced recruiters? And as we touched on earlier in this call, keeping that bar high is the hardest challenge.
Yeah, I think everyone's in the same boat, or a lot of firms are in the same boat at the minute, trying to really figure out what the next step should be because they've been burnt in the past and they don't want to kind of find themselves in that position again and, overexerting themselves in both angles, whether it's taking on too much or, hiring too much, and then it kind of changes direction. So, yeah, I totally get it. What's the just for those that are, again, like thinking about doing the US market, that are in the UK, someone like yourself that's, moved from the UK to the US, could you sum up, could you, quickly, I suppose, sum up what it's like having transitioned from the UK market to the US market and why it is so much better?
Yeah, and there's two different answers there. But the first one is how is the transition? Honestly, Elliot, it's hard. I personally found it really challenging at the start because I'd ran a really successful team and desk in contract. So permanent recruitment was a different beast. That was a baptism by fire starting that. So that was one challenge number one, understanding the intricacies and just the vastness of the US had its own challenges. And I guess what's great about out here, people in the UK, at least some of the people I used to work with, wouldn't be prepared to move from Birmingham to Manchester for a job. But out here, you see people move from New York to San Francisco in a heartbeat for the right gig. So that's great. The nuances of visas and understanding kind of just the schooling system and like the Olympiad program, Google Scholar, trying to get into some of these areas was new. And so the first 6 months of running the business was not doing a deal a month. It was more about, it was actually in hindsight, it looked like more like research and market mapping. And then things did turn, but it was pretty challenging. I was also doing PST time zone on GMT. So my now wife and I used to be passing ships in the night. So that was challenging. But then I moved out here and it was good. I think there's a fantastic opportunity out here. I'll give you an example. There's probably 3 or 4 serious players within the cybersecurity recruitment space, and it's very rare that we come across one another, which is unheard of. That we're in the same discipline, same skill set, sometimes same geography, and it's very rare that we kind of compete on the same roles. And so competition is low, compensation and fees are low. Our average fee is probably 4 to 5x of a typical UK perm fee, or at least what my kind of old team were doing. But there's different challenges. And I think the on-site teams out here with some of the clients we work with are exceptional. Some of the teams at places like Anthropic, OpenAI, Databricks, their recruitment teams are bigger, on security are bigger than CodeRed, and they are really good. Whereas I don't believe in, I'm probably getting it slated for this, but in the UK, we used to say that kind of bad recruiters go on site, right? When people kind of are just tapped out, or either exhausted from recruiting, or just don't love the hustle of kind of sales and 360 recruitment, they go to an on-site company. Out here, it's kind of the opposite. People get paid exceptionally well these on-site roles and do really good and meaningful work. And so they're our competition as much as other agencies are.
I feel like, and again, like just to kind of finish up on that, like what I've noticed, and this is just my opinion, because again, I feel like people that might listen to this might not like it, but the talent acquisition market in the UK is dominated by recruiters who are not necessarily always as driven as they were in the past and want to do something where they still enjoy recruitment and they go internal, where in the US, the internal recruiters are previous top billers in agency world, for example, or just very high performers, and are two completely different caliber of internal recruitment, in my opinion. Yeah, that's what I see. And yeah,
No, I agree entirely. There's a really good model. We work with a lot of VCs, and they typically have talent partners, which is a good communication channel for my firm and their portfolio companies. A lot of the people that are on site doing these talent partner roles at multiple different companies were elite recruiters at these exec search firms or high profile IC individual contributor placements. So yeah, I believe it's different across the
yeah,
ponds in terms of the wants or needs for
yeah,
talent acquisition.
absolutely. Final question for you, Tom.
Yeah.
Plans for the business in the coming year?
Yeah, so we're actually in a really exciting transition period. I started this business with a co-founder in 2017, who really helped craft the strategy direction of the business, and was a great partner. Hence the Code Partners.
Yeah,
And he moved on from the business in a very amicable way last year, Q1. And so for the last coming up to a year, have been kind of running at this solo. And so first actions I'm working through is building a really solid advisory team. I want to be surrounded by some of the best minds in recruiting and tech, talent acquisition. And so you'll start to see in the next probably 3 months, advisors popping up across those different pillars. We have a rebrand built for Code Reds in Q2. And then we have some huge events. We're a leading sponsor. I mentioned it earlier, but next to Anthropic, Google, Wiz, and a couple of others in Vegas. And then hiring. I really am passionate about bringing in the right people at the right time in the right seat. And so you'll see some really exciting and strategic hires from this year ahead. And then maybe under the Code Red umbrella, some brands that are grown out of our existing model, but maybe are more focused on AI. Crypto's already there, defense technology, and some others. So yeah, that's kind of what the growth looks like. And then 2026, we may be looking to open offices or office outside of the US. So maybe we'll have a conversation on the other side of the coin. It's what it's like to open up in a Dubai or a UK or wider Europe.
Absolutely, mate. We will definitely do that. Tom, been a pleasure. Really love the story. Love hearing about what you guys are doing. Success. Phenomenal business. If anyone's got any questions in the market, whether you're a business owner or even a recruiter that's looking or interested to find out more, Tom's details will be posted out on all of the channels and social media that goes out with the podcast itself. Tom, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing what you guys do for 25.
Yeah, you're a gent, Elliot. Thanks for your time. This is great.
Pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye now.